have it on this on the Schedule A.
Just so I get that information for you.
Sure, fine. Thanks a lot.
What kind of picture you making?
What kind? Well, it's a feature.
It's a feature length.
Huh?
It's a feature length. We don't know.
You don't know.
It's a feature length. We don't know.
Yeah, right. We'll find out after we develop it.
The tentative title of it is Over the Cliff.
Over the cliff. You gotta find the cliff now. Huh?
We've got it. This is the cliff.
This is the cliff.
This is the cliff.
Welcome back to episode 99 of The Harbor. Wow. I'm your host, the Kino Cowboy. We are in here talking about another Kino experimental film. I'm with Scott and I'm with Casher. Boy, the film we're talking about today is something else. It's called SymbioPsychoTaxiPlasm.
9 syllables. I just counted twice to make sure. 9 syllables, one word.
Technically, this is a film from 1968.
Technically, it's 3 films from 1968.
Yeah, there's like take 1, take 2.
No, because there's the film, and then there's the film within the film.
There's no film.
And then the film within the film within the film.
Okay, well, yeah, I see what you're saying. But yeah, it's like it was a film that was so weird and complex that it never found official release footing, so we just toured it, took it to film festivals, etc. Steve Buscemi saw it at Cannes and was like, holy shit, I have to fucking talk to this guy, and they became friends, and he helped get distribution for it.
Steve Buscemi met him in 1968?
No, at 1992 at Cannes, when they were doing a showing of it there. And when, because Steve Buscemi was there for Reservoir Dogs and some other movie and watched it. Oh yeah, also he said that when he watched the movie at Cannes, halfway through, the projector went out, and Bill, the director, walked up and was like, okay, yeah, we're having technical difficulties, but we're halfway through, so if you have any questions about the movie so far, I can answer it. And Steve Buscemi was like convinced that this was all part of like the art piece, and was like, holy shit, dude, this is insane. And it took him a while to be not convinced that that was all part of like whatever was going on. And but so that was a fun little thing I read about. So and then Buscemi himself is in the fucking sequel, which I guess y'all didn't watch the sequel.
No.
I'll talk about it later. But so basically, this movie is like playing 4-dimensional chess. It's like, how do I even begin to explain? It's like,
well, let's break down the concept of this movie.
Yeah,
because this is a movie where I do think, I don't know, there might be a small subset of people who are just like, well, what is this movie and what are people thinking about it if you haven't seen the movie? But even if you have seen the movie and are confused about what you just watched, which is understandable if going into it. What's up, Kat? What's up, Nori? But the
word on here.
Okay. So this is about William.
Hold on, your mic. Yeah, it's cutting out a little bit.
Mike is.
Yeah.
Go to Walmart.
Okay. So this is about the Fallout again. I'm about to unplug.
No, you're good.
Okay. This film is about one Bill Greaves, a director from Harlem, New York, shooting in New York, in Central Park, I believe.
Yeah.
Trying to. It's saying he's trying to. Okay, so it's filming a documentary called Over the Cliff, which Greaves is filming. So Greaves is filming a documentary focusing on these actors trying to prepare for a dramatic piece based off a script that he wrote that's intentionally kind of ropey and weird.
Yes.
And then also filming of both filming that and then filming the filming of that and filming the filming of that.
Right.
And then also as another layer, and I don't think this was planned, but interspersed throughout the documentary is commentary from the crew, not the cast, who at some point just get in a room one night and are just smoking cigarettes and talk to themselves probably for an hour, and maybe like 30-40 minutes of it makes it into the movie, about what the hell's going on, what's it like working for this guy, because Bill has turned himself into a character, into a caricature of a director, actually, which is something I find really interesting. It's not that the idea, I mean, this is interesting that, especially in the 60s, when it was probably more groundbreaking than it is today, although most directors certainly wouldn't try this today even. It's not so much that he decided to film himself making the film, or even to do that third camera for that extra layer and being able to cut between different things, but it's also the fact that he had to himself play a role as a director that they comment on and take on different personality characteristics in order to string along really this series of actors, but also the crew along this ride. And the entire time, if you don't look into his career before or after, I was asking, is this guy brilliant or a complete hack? And did the crew and editor save this experiment?
No, he did. This is all him. No one's in on the joke but him. And he's purposely vague the whole time to create this mystery around it, which then that itself starts creating content for the film on its own, almost like a prediction. And that's where it gets fucking crazy, because there's 3 separate film crews basically, and they're this film that they're shooting for. At first they're like, well, what is this? They keep shooting the same. We haven't advanced the scene at all. And it's like, this, first of all, the film he's filming for doesn't even exist. It's not even, so it's, that's the point, is like, there is no film. This is the film itself. We're all part of this piece coming together, and it's reliant on all of these moving parts coming together organically, whether they realize it or not. And they start to figure this out as it goes along. They don't figure it out really, but they're trying to figure out if there's like more to it, if he's actually just up his own ass and just doesn't really know how to make movies or something, or if this is all just one big fucking farce art piece. And that's the thing, is like, then there becomes the layer of when they're talking in the circle on their own, then you have to start wondering, did he set this up to be part of the movie? And then they even comment on that. And the guy says, the director could be outside this door and the viewers will not even know. And that's when it just really fucking throws you. And I was through the roof on this movie, because as you know, as an experimental art piece, it's just like, it's subtle how quickly it starts to build up, and you start thinking, well, wait a minute, what's reality and what's fiction? I love when movies get meta in that way, where they blend reality and fiction in like a documentary verite style, you know. And
yeah, what's another filmmaker who does that?
Well, I was
I don't
gonna say,
know.
there's a Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal.
That's I need to watch that, dude.
I
It's
need to watch. I
very
love
similar.
Nathan for You. I need to
And
watch
then
that.
there's another TV show that's just coming out. I can't remember what it's on. I think it's like some shitty streaming site called like Jury Duty, where they do that. But the original one I can think of is the Joe Schmo Show, where everybody's an actor and it's just one person who doesn't know, and it's a reality TV competition that goes from trying to make this guy look like a moron to making him look like the nicest dude on the fucking planet.
Yeah, but people argue that that's unethical, and that's why.
Oh, I mean, if he was pissy about it, but he was a good sport.
I know, but like that, I think that's that's come back into the conversation recently with that jury show, because
Well, the fucking rehearsal should have been fucking. There should have been controversy over that.
I will say, I haven't
ethically
seen the
fucking
rehearsal.
weird one.
Having seen Nathan for You,
Yeah.
especially the finale, Nathan Fielder is already playing with those, like, almost like, is this even ethical?
Oh, dude, there's like a point in the show where he like has a woman raise a fake child.
But okay,
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. It's
but anyway, Adrian, a lot of your films do some similar stuff.
yeah, that's the weird part, is when I watched it, I'm like, oh, people would probably think I'm influenced by this person or this director. And it's like, no, I hadn't even watched.
No, he was influenced by you.
No, it's just like I hadn't even watched like David Lynch when I made Moon and stuff like that. You know, just certain things.
You hadn't watched David Lynch, really? Huh, that's interesting.
Well, okay, I'd watched Twin Peaks, I guess.
Okay, you had watched Twin Peaks, so you had
not Mulholland Drive, which is really the biggest influence to me ever. But
no, but you famously during really all of your feature films, I think, have a commentary and a bleeding of the real world into the directed world. A lot of that is due to budgetary constraints and kind of commenting on the zero budgetness of the film and a way to make it engaging, which this is clearly, I mean, this is not a zero budget film, but they're running around the park and they have rented equipment and film stock and crew, but that's about it, really.
Yeah.
And a couple of no-rate actors.
And that goes back into that does interest me, and figure out a way to make a zero budget feature and people still enjoy it and take it seriously. You know, like quote unquote seriously, because I watched some people on Facebook's short films this weekend, and it fell into that same trapping of, we're a bunch of young guys and we're gonna make this real serious.
We're gonna try to make Goodfellas, and
and it's just like, okay, good luck with that.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's the difference, though, between you and Bill Greaves.
Yeah,
you're Albanian.
Yeah.
No, here's the difference between you and Bill Greaves is that you put your intention pretty much at the forefront. People know that it's for comedy. And in this, you don't know exactly the game he's playing. Now, I will say by the end of the movie, when it came up and it said edited by Bill Greaves, I was like, okay, so this guy clearly intentionally set most of this up, or all of it. We don't know.
But no. We do. Oh, we do get the confirmation in the second one, which I have seen, y'all have not, that the stuff between the crew is completely authentic.
I bet. I felt.
And that he didn't really, when he started to edit this movie, he wasn't really sure of how he wanted to edit it, and then he saw that footage and he's like, wait, no, this makes the film. That's
the nucleus of the film. Absolutely.
Yeah, and he was so like happy that it worked how he was hoping it would.
It's
so
crazy.
It is crazy that it came together like that. And like the man was on a weird mission and it all somehow worked. And it starts to feel like a descent into madness in the way of like, the main two actors for the majority of the movie, you can see them just getting frustrated of doing the same scene over and over in just different ways.
And it's a scene that goes nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Notice it's there's no coming from a scene. There's no going to another scene. There's no overarching arc. It's just these two characters having a conversation, which in terms of drama, it just stalls. It's like there's this conflict that just stay there and never goes anywhere. Kind of like the sexual tension that they're feeling, because the whole thing is she's calling him impotent and gay, the F slur a lot.
Yeah, this movie has more F slurs in it than I've ever seen in any other movie.
Which is weird because we just reviewed Fanboys.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
And I thought that was it. And then I watched this. I'm like, dude, the algorithm's going to take us to some weird places. People are going to click on like Joe Rogan, then Jordan Peterson, then Ben Shapiro, then us. Like, it's going to be weird.
Oh, no. Dude. Yeah, I was like, damn, different time for real. And that's part of the allure of it, is like, it's whether you understand what's going on or not, it's still fun to watch because it's such a weird, raw slice of the 60s. And the crew, they all have their different takes on meta everything. I don't know.
I really no, but I love the crew in that sort of, you're perhaps less formally educated, but still obviously intelligent, creative, like blue collar film crew workers sitting around. I don't know. There's almost like a class disparity between like the actors and the film. I'm serious. And like the filmmakers and stuff, and then sort of the crew and what they're doing. And there's even one line where basically we find out one of the actresses, and obviously she doesn't have any real talent. She's just kind of brought along as a joke, as a toy for this movie. But she's independently wealthy. One of the other actors takes a crack at her because she was like, he was like, well, we can rehearse it beforehand like they do in soaps. And then she was like, I've never done a soap. And he's like, well, it must be nice to be independently wealthy. Not knowing that all of that was being picked up on camera, by the way, which is another thing. And that actor, we'll get more into it later. That actor gave me strong, funniest guy in the office vibes. That the director just had to play along with. But
and you have to wonder if he purposely picked that guy because of those vibes to begin with. Because,
yeah, I know. He had to pick him. I bet during whatever casting call, he probably, when somebody read, he probably thought that was really good. I definitely can't hire them for this. Like whoever I would have hired, I can't hire that person.
Yeah, because he wants to create tension on purpose.
Yeah, chaos.
And
it's like we can't get like a union actor with an agent who will like yell at me for being like bullshit. You know, we can't have that in this movie.
Right. And that's just, it's very fascinating. And you're thinking, well, is this going to go anywhere? And it just doesn't. And that's kind of the point. Like there's the
it's frustrating for me, and I'm not even out there all day in the
yeah.
It looks like a hot, they're all sweating. And New York, I don't know if this is the summer or spring, but New York gets really hot because it's all pavement.
Yeah, I was gonna say all asphalt.
At one point, it even like
apart, but
they do different actors, and it almost gets up its own ass too much when they start like doing the lines, but they're singing at each other and shit. And it's almost like a fuck you, like at this point.
No, there's a point. I think that was the actors fucking with him, and then him fucking with the actors. But then also, it's calling attention to the fact that they know this is a performance, and they're performing while knowing, I don't know.
Well, but then no, there's the actors, the main two that we see for a good portion of the movie. They're just like, they get real frustrated, but they're not in the circle of the crew to talk about this kind of meta-ness of what possibly might be happening. And it's almost like a mystery film for the viewer too, because you're trying to figure out along with the crew if this guy's just like, if he knows, if he's like a master planner and this is all one big bit for him, or if he's just a hack. And that's part of the fun to figure out.
That's part of the fun, because there was a while for this movie until I saw the credits, like he was editing it. And I figured, like, because this movie had become so legendary, had made circles, like it couldn't be pure coincidence hackery. Somebody along the chain, even if not him, had to have been involved, and it was him and he before this, I didn't read about this until after the movie. He had a career in television, making like documentaries, doing stuff for PBS. He had won Emmys actually for some of his work. So he was an accomplished director, not of features necessarily, of narrative film, but he did know what he was doing. That's why he was able to assemble all this in the first place.
Yeah. And I like the way that it opens with the actual scenes. You think for a second, you're like, okay, well, I don't even know what this is, but let's just follow this. And then you actually cuts to them going over the script, and you're like, okay, so this is like a documentary, and then it just goes deeper. And then I like that he actually explains the process to everybody, including the cameras, about, okay, we're going to have this crew filming this, and this crew filming this, and this crew filming this. And it's kind of like, okay, I'm giving you the concept here, but you guys are still not going to get it. So, well, here we go. And
well, he gives you the mechanical explanation, but
right.
He doesn't give you the psychological.
Yeah, but it's just like, well, what's the point of all this? And it did take me a minute to realize that he himself was he was basically playing a character, because they were confused why, when the film was not, when the cameras were off, he was acting so different. And I just imagine being on set with them and how fucking maddening that would be, especially if you've been shooting for like 10 days and it's hot and you're poor and you don't have any money. And it's like, what is this, dude? And then I wonder what it was like to see the finished product, and I wish we could have gotten some reactions to that.
Yeah, it would have been cool.
But that's the thing, is that the second one, the first third of the second one is a continuation of the original back in when they were shooting in 1968, but they're doing the footage with, or the quote unquote movie scenes with two different actors and kind of doing the same stuff. But and so some of that's more of the same, so I can see why it was cut. But you do get a scene that shows them in a New York high rise outside, all having like a production meeting before the actual movie starts. And it kind of sheds some light on the method to his madness of him like kind of setting stuff up. So this movie's definitely not as strong as the original, because the original is just this fresh thing and it's like fucking awesome. But the second one is definitely a good companion piece. But the second one takes a turn though, because the first 30 minutes of it are this old footage from the 60s continuing this film shoot. But then when that ends, it cuts to the end of the first movie on a screen in a theater, and it cuts to people watching it at a film festival. And then the director goes up there 35 years later and starts talking about it, and has Steve Buscemi come up and talk about it, and then just doing some Q&A and stuff. And then they say, well, the second one is going to be like this or that. But the people in the festival and whoever's filming don't realize they're already wrapped up in it. They're already involved again with this fucking concept, and that is the sequel. And that's the thing, is like, some of it's not as fresh as the first one, but the second one fucking gets just as, there are points where it gets crazy, because
Man, I just keep thinking like this is like what inspired Nathan Fielder's whole fucking deal.
maybe so.
Because that's like the whole thing, is that no one's in on the joke but him.
You can tell that Steve Buscemi's in on it this time with Bill, but it's like they're doing a bit, or the thing that they're filming in the second one is like these two characters from the first one 35 years later. But it's meta, because when they're first filming it documentary style, right after the scene at the festival, it's these two characters, these two actors meeting up and saying, oh, it's been 35 years, you look so good, this and that, and they're reconnecting. And you think, oh, it's more behind the scenes stuff. No, we're already in the fucking footage of this fucking project, and you're like, god damn it. And then you see him reading the lines, and I'm like, damn, I've been duped again. But then we get more behind the scenes between some of the old crew that has come back, and the main guy who is from behind the scenes is talking about how he said the director's giving him like free space to do more stuff behind the scenes, and none of that is planned out for this one because they don't really know what it is. But the whole crew is complaining that any of the behind the scenes stuff would be contrived this time, because they all know what the concept is. They know the joke, so they don't see the point of filming the second one when they're all in on it. And they have like this real frustration, but that's the thing, is like they don't realize that they've already been duped again, because that's the point, is that because they already know it's contrived, that they're frustrated again in a new way. But that frustration is real, and so it's all part of the movie once again because of this. And it's like fucking madman.
No, it is, and that's something really interesting that you mentioned earlier that it all comes together organically, and that was his hope, and it did ultimately. And the second one is not organic.
No.
But also it seems to concede that it's not organic and plays with that non-organicness from a production level.
Yes.
So instead of it just being false and this Bill Greaves creating this false narratives, now he's almost acknowledging this kind of less organic production, incorporating that into the narrative to also comment on how does the professionality of certain film productions impact our viewing, and how can you do a magic trick twice? And the fact that we're doing a magic trick twice, the only way to do it is to make doing the magic trick twice its own magic trick.
Yep, exactly. And that's why I was like, God damn it. Like purposely contrived. They don't even realize they're being tricked.
I don't even know if I understood what I just said, but
no, it's exactly what it is. And because they're like, well, there's no conflict this time. We've seen the original movie. Like, there is no conflict. Boom, walked into another trap.
Boom, there's the conflict.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. And like the main filming, like, yeah, like I said, they it gets even meta between the two main actors filming, because like there's like one point where they're even like they're in the scene, but they're like looking at a photograph from their shoot from 35 years ago, commenting about it and stuff, and it's just like, what the fuck? And then there's this part where he brings in almost like an acting coach. She's kind of similar to an acting coach, but it's more about like theme and drama and stuff. It's not like, oh, your acting chops or this or that. It's kind of like trying to dig into what these characters are and help them find it.
Dramaturg.
Basically. But then, and you think it's actually it's not, it just feels so like, okay, this is legit, but he actually hired her as an actor to play this character of the fucking drama coach. And then it turns into this, it turns out that she's even part of this narrative story, and it becomes even more complex. And she starts like acting alongside the woman in the scene behind her the whole time. And it just becomes this insane fucking thing. And I'm like, God damn it. It's definitely worth watching if you really like this movie. You want a companion piece. And then it's like the whole point is like, why is Steve Buscemi involved? Like, he's a friend with a guy, but that's the point, is that him being there and more like Hollywood-esque producers being there adds to the problem with the crew of like, okay, this is fucking, why are we making this? Why is Steve Buscemi involved? This is a fucking, there's no reason for this. This is a sequel to an experimental film that we already know the joke of. But they don't realize that Steve Buscemi's purposely involved to add to that like fakeness of it.
And I guess draw people in. Be like,
gives it some more authenticity.
And Steven Soderbergh.
He's Soderbergh really worked on this too.
He's only involved because it would make the crew bring it up in meetings and stuff. So it's just like, he's definitely in on the joke.
It's fucking crazy manipulation, and I respect the fuck out of it. I think
you did. So what did you, Casher, you've been kind of quiet, and a lot of us has just been untangling this movie. Yeah. I feel like it's one of those podcasts, almost like when we reviewed Tenet. But which, by the way, and I'm sure Nolan has to have seen this for Inception, because Inception is already a giant metaphor for filmmaking, the creative process, if you didn't know.
You watched Paprika.
Yeah, that's true. He did.
No, that's true.
But it's not the exact same. But.
And said, I can make this white.
Yeah, he watched Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't know. We could ask that. Like, I think the idea that, so there's an interesting part in this actually. The crew mentioned being kind of like a chorus, and what they meant by that is in Greek tragedy or Greek drama, you would have a chorus, which was what it sounds like. It was a group of people who would speak or sing to the audience to kind of explain what was going on and also what was happening off stage or what happened in between scenes. And that was an expository element for them. And also sometimes they would comment on theme and stuff. Because, you know, even back then, stupid people were in the theater, right?
Exposition.
Yeah, well, even I don't know, people like couldn't fucking read, so they went to the theater. That's why all of Shakespeare's plays end with being like, and here's the theme of the play. And then people are like, greatest writer ever. But yeah, that's he had to do it. But
yeah, like the end of Psycho.
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare would have not changed a word from Psycho. But I had a point to all this. Jesus Christ, I am sorry. I blanked out on that. I was talking Shakespeare and drama, and we're all
quantum mechanics.
And no, just the idea of first of all, let me say this. I think this film couldn't be made today, and not for any reason. Oh wait, no. Let me go back.
Except for the F word.
No, okay. But the reason, the idea of like who created this and who had this idea of like what is fact and what is fiction, I mean, that's always been played with. What's interesting to me is like this is enabled by the very mechanical analog technology of the filmmaking process. I think this was done a lot better because it was shot on film.
Yes.
Because you had to be selective with what you got and you could only edit so much. If this was on digital, if somebody tried to do this today, they would shoot everything. And if they shot everything, they would shoot nothing, essentially. So I think
made at the beginning of the movie, I think, too, whenever they're arguing about my camera doesn't tell me how much film is being used.
Yeah.
Roll. Well, I have the roll already.
That's so fucking. That adds to the stress too. It's fucking crazy.
That's probably one of the funnier parts of the movie.
They probably just rented equipment from the cheapest place they could find.
Yeah. It doesn't.
And then the whole. It feels like it's 5 minutes, even though it's not. He was like, "Well, who has film? Does he film? No, I already have film, but I want new film." Well, you're standing next to me the whole time. Like that entire exchange is absolutely maddening. Stressful, as stressful as any like contrived sitcom joke. Mrs. Doubtfire in the restaurant, like as any stressful as that. But I don't know. I feel like if you gave this to digital filmmakers, it would be too much.
Now, I will say, to a degree, David Lynch kind of does something similar to this movie, but with DV cameras in Inland Empire, but it's a more narrative film. So definitely, viewers watching this, if you want something completely different but also very similar, it's hard to. I don't know why it's hard to explain without seeing it. Go watch Inland Empire. It gives you that same feeling of fiction versus reality and just like. It's definitely Lynch's most hardcore experimental film. So if you thought some of his other movies were experimental, watch Inland Empire. It's 3 hours. But the thing, besides all the quantum mechanics of this goddamn fucking movie, there is stuff that I like just because
I found this movie a lot more entertaining than I thought it would be.
Well, it's just I mean, even just like the natural stuff that occurs, like the group of people, like the kids and shit that want to watch him film, and then the homeless guy at the end.
Yeah, I love that. It's like a peak, like good view of New York in the 60s.
And that adds to it in a way of like, because that homeless guy just goes on and on and on. And I paused it and I was like, there's only fucking 4 minutes left. How are they going to wrap it up? Guess what? They don't. That's it. That's the end of the movie.
No, I think the homeless guy wraps it up.
Well, he does, but and I'm like, well, wait a minute. I guess that's the fucking point. And the way
but there were some things I can get into the ending now because I wrote stuff down. There are things that he said that I think have thematic relevance to the movie.
Yeah.
First of all, there were some hilarious things where he was like, "Do you know what effing means? I coined it. It means fucking." He was like, "I invented the word effing. You know, nobody else thought of it." I thought that was amazing. And there's one point he's like, "I'm Canadian," and he starts speaking French, and he's like, "Yeah, that's Jewish." He's like, "I don't know." I don't know. Talks about all these things. I don't know. Because then they even start playing with the guy of Bill starts playing a character, or it's just advertised by Dr. Pepper. Bill starts
Zero
almost
sugar. I had to try it.
he has to get the homeless guy to explain what being homeless is to them.
Yeah.
There's even that. And there's acknowledgments of their roles there that they're playing in society and on the film. But there's also something he says something about we're all virgins in our minds. And I'm trying to remember what the context was for that. But at this point, my brain was mush. But there's a lot of sexual imagery in this, very intentionally, very blatantly. And I think that's why there's three things. There's a father and a mother and a child, and that's the third film, and that's what we see. And the intercutting, and the idea of filmmaking as a collaborative process in which people have to get their creative juices sploshing all over each other, and then hopefully something organic will be born at the end of it.
And also, we get the second one. I don't know if he says it in the first one or the second one, but it's kind of like he admits, I think it's in the second one, he admits that it was also purposely symbolic in ways of the Vietnam War at the time and the chaos surrounding that, and just
it seems like all these guys were draft dodgers.
yeah. And then Steve Buscemi's like, well, are you purposely filming this one at the end after everyone's coming back from Iraq? And he's real vague about it. So I don't know. It's just funny.
Well, and then you could argue, what the hell does this have to do with Vietnam? Which was what I just thought when you just told me that.
Yeah.
But you had a lot of art, obviously, in the 60s with the social revolution, which ramped up after our involvement in Vietnam ramped up. Of your breaking down of artistic conventions was just mirroring the breaking down of social conventions, and that's part of it. That's why I think it's somewhat not the most important, but it is notable that he's a black filmmaker doing this. Just for that reason, it gives him a little bit more of that avant-garde edge, because in the studio system, where would he be? I'm trying to think of black directors from the 60s. Studio directors from the 60s, I can't think of any off the top of my head, which I think is another reason it feels so much like outsider art, because it has to be. Although he did have professional success, just not in movies or anything considered like big or glamorous. I don't think he would want it anyway. I don't think he's interested in that. But I don't know. You had like Steve Martin doing his weird comedy stuff around this time. And there's definitely elements of sexual revolution, just because the whole quote unquote plot of the movie he's making is basically a wife berating her husband, calling him the F.
Say it.
No. If it comes up in this podcast, trigger warning, but it won't be me. Just because I don't want the video on the internet. But I'll say it as much as I want when the camera's off. That's not true. But or is it? I'm getting all meta on you.
You're part of it.
Yeah, is it real, or
why is this movie called SymbioPsychoTaxiPlasm?
Well, first of all, Bill Greaves, he hired Scott on here to confuse us in the fucking process. Okay. This is a complete tie-in to the
Bill
film,
Greaves is dead, has been dead for almost 10 years. So,
or is he?
Hired him back.
That Andy Kaufman. He's cool. He's pulling a Bill Hicks, Alex Jones on us.
He talks about in the second one in the Q&A about the name, and unfortunately, I kind of forgot what he said.
Symbiosis, creative symbiosis.
All right, where's
psychological, like Taxi. All this. Taxi, it's taking you places. Plasm, like a cytoplasm, like.
Well, he said it was basically. He said the word came from this like social science like guy who studied that kind of thing, and it had to do with the interconnectivity of people and how things work, and then he relates it to quantum mechanics and stuff like that. And so
a lot of weed.
There's a lot of fucking math involved, I guess. I don't know. And a lot of weed.
That was my first take from this whole thing. I was like, why the fuck is it called this?
Yeah, and At
It's weird
first,
because I didn't think about it. I mean, I knew it was a weird name, but then I watched the movie and I was like, I'll figure out the name. And then I watched the movie and I got so focused on that I forgot about the name until we were about to record this. Because when I was looking at Zoom, we were about to record this. I'm like, I'm just now thinking about it.
Oh yeah.
And again, I think it's intentionally taking a bunch of seemingly disparate words and mashing them
Oh, I
together.
found why it's called
That's
it.
what the film is, but then also because it depends on your point of view and your interpretation of it.
So the concept of SymbioPsychoTaxiPlasm, I guess he added psycho into it, originated from author Arthur F. Bentley in his book Inquiry into Inquiries, Essays in Social Theory, which Greaves described as those events that transpire in the course of anyone's life that may have an impact on the consciousness and psyche of the average human being, how the human being also controls or affects changes or has an impact on the environment. By inserting psycho into the term, Greaves emphasized the mental state affected by those events.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense.
So this also has to do with cybernetics. And when I say cybernetics, I don't mean like cyberpunk shit.
There wasn't enough, since it's in New York, I was kind of surprised we didn't see any Avenger cameos.
Fuck you, asshole.
So this has to do with cybernetics. And cybernetics is you're studying systems and you're studying inputs on those systems, but it's also something, it's very up its own ass. So I quit. I didn't go too far into my studies of this because our weird buddy Zach Luna brought it up to me and I started reading into it. And like most things with him, I was like, Zach, you've done too many drugs and left. And stopped reading.
So anyway, this movie is officially in the Kino Cowboy top 250 of my favorite movies now. It just impacted me really fucking hard, and I just really got a lot from it. So I'm glad we took the time to kind of unravel it, because I was like, fuck me. And there's layers to it. And I definitely, once again, if people are watching this, they've only seen the first one, I would recommend watching the second one if you really like the first one, because it is a good companion piece. It's not as fresh, but there is some interesting insight to it. And it's shot in the early 2000s, and it's like in the fall. And I know that has really had nothing to do with it, but like it did remind me of like those like fall, like Thanksgiving era times in my life. I don't know. It's like right before everything went digital, and it just has this nice like we're shooting on digital cameras, or like tape. We're shooting on tape or something, and it just has this like look to it that's like, okay, we're not shooting on film, we're not shooting on complete digital yet. I don't know, it had like nostalgia to it, and it was nice to see him finally get the recognition for the movie after all those years, and how painful that must have been trying to show it around to people and stuff like that.
It's another thing that made me think about the creative process, and just like here's the thing, and there's another reason why I'm not a fucking filmmaker, is all the festival shit you have to deal with.
Yeah, man.
And distribution. It is such hell with filmmaking and video, and especially back then. Those are some people out now.
Dude.
I mean, some people would argue that it's almost better that we had more of a system now than just everything being everywhere all at once. But
yeah,
it's at least there was some sort of curation going on. But I mean, if you were trying to get this in, and also it is one of those things, he tried to find distribution and he couldn't. And I'm like, well, of course you couldn't. What did you like? But he had to halfway expect that.
Yeah, way too ahead of his time, I guess.
He's ahead of now's time.
Yeah, for real.
But well, it's just, I think it's just most people, even though it's a short movie, it's under 80 minutes. It's something that I think most people don't want to think about. They don't want to think about art that really confronts their reality. I don't know. Sorry.
No, I don't know. No, what I'm surprised it didn't hit like the midnight movie circuit, like some of the other stuff we talked about, like Eraserhead or.
But I feel like Eraserhead,
Flamingos.
as weird as avant-garde as it is, you can at least market it as like a monster movie, even though it's not at all.
Yeah,
but right. you can kind of market it like that, like this. Even the name alone, you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah,
and you can't do a 2001 thing where you describe it as like a trip movie, an acid trip movie, even though it's not. And things like that.
And that's the thing is back then it wasn't common to shoot behind the scenes footage of your shoot. Like even on big productions, like there's some stuff like on older movies, but even that concept of like shooting behind the scenes of your shoot was still not.
Well, right, because we didn't have like movie channels like we do today, and then obviously home video didn't exist.
Right.
But
so yeah, it's a shame. Wrong place at the wrong time, I guess.
I don't know, but it really brought me. It's like in a way though, the guy's had a very successful career. He's worked on over 200 different documentary pieces.
Yeah.
He's one of these legions of filmmakers who like really make up the media environment that we have outside of these studios. And in a way, first of all, I think as a black guy born in the 20s, he had a pretty great filmmaking career.
Hell yeah.
And arguably, this was more successful than anything else he could have done. Arguably, this was the best way to get it into the hands it needed to get into, because if he wasn't still, like, let's say this came out in theaters and then it just kind of came out, nobody got it, and then it flopped, it was a dud. Would he have moved on? Would he have kept showing it at festivals and stuff? Because obviously this means something to him that he's still, years and years later would show up to a festival with it. And so it really says something about him, which is another layer, that meta layer of how long this movie lasted, but of getting it to, just, I don't know, it's inspiring.
Sure, for sure. And unlike some directors, thank God he got to see it pop off before he died.
Yeah, for sure.
Get registered, and Criterion took it on and stuff like that. And it's just like, there's a film recently. What were we talking about? It's like the director died before it really fucking exploded again. I think you and I were talking about it, Scott. One of the recent episodes. I can't remember, but that's just a shame when that happens. So at least it did finally find an audience, and I'm part of that audience. So if you're watching this and you haven't checked it out, check it out. I know we say that sometimes, but it's just like, whatever. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for next week. We have episode 100 in the house. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check it out. Like, share, subscribe.
We need an outro. We need like an outro screen with all of us like really cool, making hand signs and like,
yeah, dude, gangster rap.
Music. Yeah. Follow me on the Stardust. Click here.
The outro needs to be like 2.5 minutes with like obnoxious techno from the 2000s. And it's like Windows 98.
Oh, was the director who died? Was it The Last Airbender and M. Night Shyamalan?
God, I fucking wish.
No. Damn, disappointing.
No. You're not allowed to make fun of M. Night, dude. Because I saw a guy on Twitter said you're racist if you try and shit on The Last Airbender now because you're just someone who just watched a YouTube video about how it's bad.
That's a Russian.
We're racist because we didn't like white characters being casted as POC characters.
Anyway, shout out to our live stream episode of The Last Airbender. Go check that out. It's not as good as this movie, I'll say.
I did like 7 beers on that.
But yeah, go check that out. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week. 100 episodes.